I fully believe, and you can call me a conspiracist or whatever you want, but I profoundly believe that we live in a society where Fahrenheit 451 is real because we find ourselves using the words liberty of thought, freedom of speech as a way to protect people's intolerant and ignorant opinions, which shouldn't be anywhere within our society, and we shouldn't even be proclaiming it and just showing it everywhere in the world just for people to see, because people, the vast majority of people are tend to be quite ignorant and they don't understand what is wrong with all those opinions and they don't care to be informed enough. Hello everyone, this is Darkest Tower Reads, and today I will be reviewing Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Let's start because this book is intense and this topic is something I'm really passionate about. So let's start immediately right away. As always, we start with a small summary of the book, and the story just follows Guy Montag. I hope I am not mispronouncing his surname, but yeah, the story is about Guy, who is a fireman, and surprisingly enough, instead of actually putting fires down, he actually is the one that creates them. Because firemen in the nation that we see in the book, which I would say is America, United States, apologies. So yeah, in that nation, firemen actually create fires as a way to burn books because books are forbidden in that nation, which we don't hear a lot about the nation itself, but it sounds like that nation lives under a dictatorship where books are banned. Any books whatsoever, no books are allowed. And obviously, the media that they see or the way that they entertain themselves either is very passive. I wouldn't say passive, but it's either very monotone and they just do things that are very human like in the sense of driving cars, for example, or going on walks or things like that, or they just either watch any sort of entertainment, which is usually very much adopted by the government, right? So that is the main gist of the book, and the journey between what the journey Guy's journey is about him being a fireman who starts burning books until he at the end becomes this rebel who, instead of burning books, actually preserves books and tries his best to actually protect literature and protect culture. About Ray Bradbury, obviously he is the author of the book, but I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit about him, mainly because the book was created right after the Second World War, right around that time. Basically, he was very heavily influenced by all the movement within the Nazi occupation and during the Second World War, and where basically all Nazi military was actually burning books, and they heavily banned any sort of book that would either talk about politics or would talk about sensitive commentary or sensitive topics like Fahrenheit 451, for example, even though it was not released at that time, but similar books or books that would talk about politics in general, or that would make specific topics that wouldn't relate to the Nazi ideology or the Nazi way of thinking, or what the Nazis wanted their civilians to think or to believe in, which was obviously, I would say it was one of, at that time, obviously taking into account the war and everything, obviously it is one of the first signs of dictatorship, or like one of the biggest signs of dictatorship, where they obviously try to control the masses thoughts or the masses ideas in a way to protect their dictatorship and to protect the core ideas of what they are fighting for, right? Obviously, they burned a lot of books, like that talked about racism or like any other topics that were specifically very sensitive and protecting the minorities, as well as, if I remember correctly, there were also a lot of books, of religious books, that were burned, just showing how the Nazi ideology was the only thing that was allowed, or the only way, the correct way of thinking. And you will get the consequences. You will get certain consequences, either if you were reading books, for example, or if you had banned books in your household, or you were actually actively protecting books or protecting literature. And obviously, if you try to move and transport literature around, you will also get consequences, which was either fine, for example, or imprisonment, or obviously death and being sent to concentration camps. And that's something that we've seen in many societies, not only in the West, for example, but in the East as well. With China, we have also seen it in South Africa with the apartheid, and we have also seen it in other many dictatorships all around the world. So this is not a unique experience, but it's something that we still need to talk about, and I think it's important that we remember in history, and that is mentioned, and that people are very aware. Well, they should be very aware that that is someone's reality, and taking into account that, well, protecting the freedom of thought and the liberty of thought is one of the main points, or what actually makes us human, and why that is one of the things that makes us diverse, that makes us unique, and that we should protect, because it makes us richer, it makes us better as humans. Obviously, you might be asking yourself, why should we care so much about this big, or why should we care about bigs being banned when I am not in a country that has any bans, or that doesn't have any measures for me to see whatever sort of entertainment I want, right? Obviously, depending on the country, that is true, and many countries don't have any bigs that are banned. But I think we should see this big more, like, more in an ideal thought, like more in an ideal way, rather than very literally, right? Because obviously there's nothing that is banned as of now, or at least maybe in your country, I'm not sure, depending on the country that you are in or that you live in. But obviously, all entertainment or literature, or you can see whatever you want, but do you really think that your entertainment is not being controlled, or are you 100% sure that everything that you see on your phone, on TikTok, on social media, or anywhere, everywhere around you, are you 100% sure that this is not controlled? And this is why I would say that liberty of thought and obviously freedom of speech is so important. But I think, like, this might sound also very conspiracy again, right? But I see everywhere in my culture, or in the country that I'm living in, which is UK, and I even see it in the United States all the time on social media, that a people are watching very shitty entertainment, or entertainment that has no value, or that has no value, right? Or I also see students or Gen Alpha kids that are 13, 14-year olds, and that barely know how to read, and or don't understand anything that they do. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to spell. They have no idea of, they barely know how to read, let alone actually enjoying reading, right? And also at the same time, we see a huge issues with manipulation of journalism everywhere around the world. The top, we've seen the statistics, right? The top, the worst journalism regarding countries, right? Like the worst journalists in the world, or the journalists that actually manipulate the news the most, is obviously America. We see it everywhere with Fox News and with any other channel and TV and newspapers. We see it everywhere. So, do you, taking into account all of these, do you really think that you shouldn't care about manipulation of your thoughts or of your ideals and your morals? Because that's something that happens to you every day, and you should really care about it. And this is one of the main reasons why I actually read, and it's because I want to see the world. I want to learn more. I want to be able to say, actually, this is important. And I didn't even think it was important. Talking about the first topic, which is obviously the kind of media or the kind of entertainment that we see on a daily basis. I would like to refer about, well, I would like to talk about the things that we see on TV, for example, and B, the things that we see on social media, right? Because I think obviously they are interconnected because they are part of culture, or the culture of the country or societies in general. But I also think that it is important because we see a clear manipulation of both sides, right? Of all the media that we see, anyways. Um, the type of media that we consume on the TV, for example, or any sites that you use in your daily basis, like Netflix, like Disney Plus, like whatever you want. Honestly, like there's so many that I can't even count them now. But yeah, something that we see is that the kind of content that usually gets the vast majority of the population are programs like, well, shitty reality TV at the end of the day. And don't get me wrong, I love to see one of these, like any of these programs, because they are really entertaining, and also they are quite fun and they are very juicy. And I am a nosy person, so I love to see these programs. But yeah, we see all these kind of shitty reality TV that people enjoy because it just makes sense to enjoy it, right? It's juicy, it's entertaining, there's always drama around. And also, after working in whatever job you have, after working for 12 hours or after being outside home for 12 hours, the least thing you want to do, the worst thing that you could do or that you would have to do is obviously trying to learn or trying to do something different that actually makes or enriches your way of thinking, right? And it just makes so much sense because your brain after 12 hours of working is just completely fried, and you want to just sit down, relax, and just watch something that does keep you occupied, obviously, but also at the same time that doesn't have like doesn't need to have that much attention span or that much cognitive behavior, right? And you just want to sit down, have your dinner, and just chill, which makes a lot of sense. And I also do it at the same time. Obviously, I don't do it as often, just because I found myself feeling like my brain was rotting and I wasn't actually doing anything of profit. So I decided not to watch it as much, which I'm happy about. But yeah, that's something that happens. This is for everyone, and everyone does it. We either watch shitty reality TV, or we spend hours in our beds or on our sofas just watching social, like chronically watching social media and just rotting, basically. Like, I love the concept of rotting, and I am a huge rotting enjoyer, but I know that it is very, very unhealthy, and it's something that we shouldn't keep up doing on a daily basis. And obviously, social obviously um entertainment and all these big channels and big names like Hulu or Netflix, they obviously have all the control available to create create anything that they want. So obviously that is controlled by channels that are usually controlled by um, either political parties or either governments in general, which makes it really easy to bring all these ideas that the government has down to, or the party has as well, down to the media that is being fed or being created or that is being just funded to these channels and then basically shown onto us or basically created for us, right? And for us to consume. And then we have social media where everything is immediately available. There's so many options for us to choose, and we just basically get all this novelty and all these senses of we're just getting dopamine hits by scrolling and scrolling and just spend hours in the specific social media that we prefer, right? For me, it's, for example, TikTok. I love being on TikTok, and sometimes I don't realize how much time I actually spend in it, which is very scary because I would just be scrolling for like 15 minutes and then 3 hours have passed. I hope that is relatable because that happens to me all the time, and I don't know if I should be scared or concerned or if that's something that is quite common. But yeah, we see all the time everywhere in the world where obviously when you travel around, for example, when I go to Spain, I see different content on social media, especially Spanish content, right? From Spanish content creators. Or when I went to Hungary, when I went to Budapest 2 months ago, if I am not mistaken, I would see not only I would see like weird Hungarian advertisements, which was very weird because I don't speak a lick of Hungarian, but I will also see Hungarian content creators, right? Which obviously it makes sense because you're in the country, but at the same time, I have a For You page or I have the algorithm knows that things that I like, the things that I like, and the languages that I speak. That's something that TikTok asks you, right? But why am I getting advertisements? I understand it, but why am I getting um, TikToks from Hungarian content creators when A, I don't speak Hungarian, and B, I don't care about that at all, right? Like there were things about football, for example, which obviously I have no interest in. Like, have you seen me? Do I look sporty? I do not. Or I would see content about um I don't know, I have no idea right now, about things to do in Hungary, but not in Budapest where I was and where I was just staying, right? Like I would see things about in Hungarian about cheese or about uh, rivers, and he's like, I have no interest in this, and just because like you're just showing this to me, the algorithm was showing this to me just because I am in Budapest, I am in Hungary. So obviously I see how there's a slight manipulation on that side, right? And obviously because social media is created to keep you entertained, we see all these extreme posts that are very engaging, like extreme diets, for example, or I don't know, extreme gossip, nosy things, drama that happens between creators just because that keeps us entertained. And obviously, as we see in research every time, every day, and I see it with younger people especially, or it even happens to me as well, we see how social media has a huge influence into people's behavior. So microtrends, that is the best, I would say that's the best example for us to see, or extreme diets, for example, or how um, even people's thoughts or ideas change suddenly or change within the span of months just because social media has created a different trend, for example, or something like we just go into two sides of the spectrum, right? The best example that I see is with body trends, basically, or like what is how you are supposed to look like, or what is the next attractive thing, right? We see, for example, in the early 2000s, we had the cocaine chic kind of skinny person, Kate Moss, right? And then we in the span of 10 years, we moved to the complete opposite, which was the slim, thick Kim Kardashian BBL butt kind of person, right? And now I see how we just move back, like are slowly moving back to skinny chic, just like the yoga fit mom kind of body, which obviously it makes sense that trends vary, but we shouldn't be making trends about making like about changing our own bodies, because we see people that were skinny in the 2000s, then they get the BBL, and now they are just getting all these surgeries reversed, right? Like we see in the Kardashians over here, like they are the best example of how body trends exist, or how social media influences us to change the way that we think, the way that we behave, or the way that we look and we act. So, how is this related to Fahrenheit 451? Well, thank you so much for asking. I love that question. Basically, I would say that this week is a wake up call for everyone that is within those spheres, right? Or is, I would say for everyone in general, because we can't stop being influenced, right? If you have social media, for example, you are already being influenced. Or if you watch the TV, or if you like to watch reality, or any sort of media, it doesn't really matter, any sort of media, you are still being influenced. Or even when you go out of your house, you will see advertisements everywhere. I use a tube every day, for example, and I see advertisements everywhere. To the opera, for example, to go to museums, or to buy specific things like Sheen or Pretty Little Thing, or anything like all these advertisements. When I come out of my house, the only thing I see is things that are made and created for me to consume, or for me to be influenced into actually consuming or doing that thing. So I would say in this modern day society, it is very, very imperative that we understand how important it is to actually create your own thoughts, and to actually educate yourself, and stop being ignorant, or try not to be ignorant about the way that society works, or the way that humanity works in general, and the way that we are constantly tried like we are constantly being manipulated and influenced into do certain things, which are usually uh, consuming things, right? Or creating things, or making things, spending money or earning money in order to create all this cycle of consumption. But not only that, but we also live in a society where the people that are usually the loudest are the ones that have the least ideas. We see it with Trump, for example. He's the best example, where obviously he is a man of power. He is a man that has made an empire. Well, his family has made an empire for the surname, for Trump, and for himself as well. But we see how all these very ignorant and very extreme ideas and intolerant ideas are portrayed everywhere in the world, to the point of him becoming a president, which I think is nuts if we actually deepen it, right? If we actually deepen the thought of Trump being president again, not only for the first time, but also for the second time, I think it just really shows the way that some cultures and societies work or look like, because obviously we see in the US how the culture, even though it is very, very based on freedom, obviously we see in their constitution that I don't know why hasn't changed in the last 300 years, which I find crazy. But yeah, we see in the constitution how everything is based on freedom, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of firearms, freedom of religion, freedom of doing whatever you want, which I understand and I agree to a certain point, but when is freedom too much freedom? And I would say that this big is the perfect explanation for that, right? Um, because we see in America where everyone is able to say and to do whatever they want, obviously within the laws of the state, usually. But yeah, we see how everyone has the freedom to do basically whatever they want, or to see all the media, or to see all the entertainment that they want. But the content that is fed, or the entertainment that is fed, or the education that is being um, given to students, to younger people, it is not the best quality, and also it is heavily influenced and manipulated by the government of that era. The first example is the fact that they do the Pledge of Allegiance every day in schools, even for like tiny kids. They still do the Pledge of Allegiance. Of allegiance. That is one of the things I recently found out. I found out like 4 years ago, but I think that is weird and that is crazy. It's just nationalism to the next level. It's like I see the what the hell is a kilometer kind of meme over here, right? That is just a cool thing to do. Like, I'm so sorry, and I understand that this is part of your culture, if that is part of your culture, but do you honestly guys don't think that's crazy? Because I think it's weird. But yeah, that is just one of the only examples that, or like one of the thousand of examples that I see in US's behavior, or in US's way of educating, right? The fact that we see everywhere on social media that the vast majority of Americans have a very poor sense of geography. They don't know where, they don't know that Europe is not a country, it is a continent. And there are thousands, well, not thousands, but there's a lot of different countries with completely different culture, for example. They don't know where the countries are. I've been asked by an American, where from South America am I, when I am Spanish and obviously I am European. And also saying that Spain is part of a Latin American, taking into account the history that Spain has with Latin America. I think it's a very unfortunate question to ask. We also see how, yeah, how kids nowadays barely know how to speak or how to read. They don't even know how to spell. I see on TikTok every day. I can leave you guys over here some recommendations from teachers in United States, which I think are the ones that are great advocates for all these, well, for these uh, educational crises that we see in the US nowadays. But yeah, we see kids that don't know how to spell words, that are not interested in learning or understanding, and we see very a huge lack in education, not only in interest in education, but we see a huge lack of the quality of the education that we give kids every day, or what that we give kids nowadays, and how they are not interested, or they don't even understand that that is something that we should care about. Obviously, people blame Donald Reagan for that, in the US specifically, which I don't know enough about politics to say, but I know about the no children left behind policy, which I'm not sure if it's Donald Reagan's. I would just put the name of the person that did it. But yeah, we see how obviously the lack of quality in education is something that severely affects society and generations to come. As a general summary, I would say that Fahrenheit 451 is one of the most important books that I have read in my entire life, I would say. Not only because it is a modern classic and it talks about all these topics that are so important in our generation or in humanity in general, in society, but also because this book has actually made me think about the way I behave or the what I see around me or what content I consume. Because I have always found myself struggling about the things that I think or the ways that I what I believe in or um, what I think or what I do or the way I act. Just because obviously as a white person, I was raised in a very white privilege environment, and the fact that I've been able to get to meet all these people from all these different cultures and meet and understand how different my upbringing or my culture is to others is something that has given me so much power and has given me the power to understand the other people's struggles, but also to protect the people that I care and protect my community from those struggles as well, and just be someone that is next to them to defend them, right? Also, at the same time, with feminism, for example, that's something that I also find myself um, that I found myself being able to learn because of the books or because of the literature that I've read, right? Or even getting a degree, for example, being able to study and to get a proper education and to being able to study clinical psychology, for example, to in order to be able to help people. That is something that I will never regret, and it's something that being able to be or to enjoy literature and to consume all this content that is actually um, very helpful and very good for myself, and it's something that will not only brings me joy but also enhances my the way that I think and the way that I act, and the way that I am is something that is so key and so important to do, and it's something that we should be as humans or as individuals very conscious of. That's why I think Fahrenheit 451 is a must read, specifically in schools, high schools. I would say, yeah, around like 15, 16-year olds. I think everyone should read this book and everyone should understand that what we say and what we see is something that really, really influences us and others. And we should be mindful of what we say or the way that we speak, and also be mindful of what we consume as entertainment. But also at the same time, we should protect entertainment, and we should make sure that it is um, of quality and that it is not what's the name um that is protected, so that is of quality and that is protected from other people's manipulation or other people's influence. So obviously everyone should be able to see, watch, enjoy whatever they want, but make sure that it is not manipulated to give other people's ideas or to give or to influence other people into believing things that they shouldn't be believing in or that they actually don't believe in. That was all for today. I know it was quite a lot and this topic was also quite sensitive, but I thank you guys so much for watching this video. Obviously, you can go into my page and watch some more if you're interested. You can follow me on my social media as always. And yeah, let's talk about Fahrenheit 451. If you have any opinions about it or if you are interested in reading it, obviously please leave a comment or talk to me in social media. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the book as much as I did. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.